The Dead Pit is a 1989 American horror film, written and directed by Brett Leonard, and follows a young woman, who is admitted to a mental health facility after she loses her memory. Our story starts with some disturbed blokes in their hospital cells, before we meet two doctors having a bit of a squabble. Dr. Ramsey is a talented yet unethical doctor, but Dr. Swan ain't too happy about the illegal experiments his colleague has been conducting. Dr. Swan tells his co-worker to quit with the funny business, but Ramsey is having none of it. Now it doesn't take a genius to work out Dr. Ramsey is a right horrible bastard, but maybe his experiments are actually helping his patients in a safe and beneficial way. Or maybe he's performing unsanctioned lobotomies, and is in league with the devil. At this stage, we just don't know. Dr. Swan decides to follow a trail of blood, which leads him to a spiral staircase that descends into the lime-tinged bowels of the hospital. He cautiously makes his way down to a ghastly tomb, and is greeted by a carpet of skulls, and a patient on an operating table. After checking the patient, he notices the body is carved up, and discovers his evil bastard associate has a hankering for splitting craniums. There's also a bloody great hole in the floor chock full of corpses. Dr. Ramsey makes an appearance, and Swan gives him a piece of his mind. Ramsey couldn't give two shits about Swan's opinion of him, and gives him a slice for good measure. In retaliation, Swan shoots Ramsey right between the eyes, and he drops into the pit, with all his past victims. Then Swan seals up the basement. A bit of polyfiller should do it. Next, we fast forward 20 years, and meet the aforementioned Jane Doe, who is suffering with severe memory loss. Regardless of her diagnosis, she's convinced her memory loss is not due to amnesia, but instead, believes that someone stole her memory through surgical means. Naturally, the medical staff think she is a Fruit Loop, then their consultation is interrupted when an earthquake hits the hospital. Pandemonium ensues, as the patients are shaken around the hallways, and Jane Doe experiences a premonition that people are locked up in the basement. Dr. Swan tries to console the hysterical Jane, and she gets sedated after reminding him of the hospital's dark underground secret. But the earthquake has rattled more than just the conscience of Dr. Swan, as we see the door to the Dead Pit open, once again. So there we have it, a young woman struggling to piece together her past, after her brain was tampered with by a mysterious surgeon. A troubled doctor, who refuses to face his past transgressions, and deal with the consequences of his actions from 2 decades ago. And a very naughty undead physician, who is back from the grave, and ready to unleash untold havoc on an unsuspecting mental hospital. Will Jane be able to recollect her past and go back to her normal life again? Does Dr. Swan have the testicular fortitude to venture back down to the basement, and put an end to the evil that lurks underground once and for all? And what exactly is the dastardly Dr. Ramsey cooking up in his green pit of death anyway? Oh, it's zombies. Lots and lots of zombies. The Dead Pit comes under the bracket of so bad it's good, but definitely succeeds at getting under your skin by gradually building a tense and ominous atmosphere throughout its 95-minute runtime. We see twisted scenes of experimental brain surgery, blood-stained zombies making a right old nuisance of themselves, gory brain fondling in the powder room, and hang on a minute, is that Steve Irwin? The acting is exactly what you'd expect from a low-budget horror movie. Cheryl Lawson, who plays Jane, does a perfectly adequate 80s horror job at running around in her underwear, whilst intermittently breaking down into tears and screaming, "I'm not crazy," over and over again. And Danny Gochnour, who played the demonic Dr. Ramsey, didn't have much to say in the movie, but I'm sure did a good job at giving kids nightmares in 1989. However, I rolled my eyes whenever Stephen Gregory Foster, who plays the demolition-obsessed patient Myers, opened his mouth. His hammy acting, paired with his unnecessary intensity, felt really jarring in comparison to all the other performances. There's not many special effects to talk about in the Dead Pit, unless you consider some glowing red eyes, and a model of a hospital getting a bit soggy as special. The bigger focus was on the makeup, especially the zombies, who felt like a bit of a shoe-in, and some rather melty faces. Somebody get a mop for this poor soul. The Dead Pit was scarier than I expected, but never quite hit its mark compared to its horror peers, such as Nightmare on Elm Street, and Hellbound. Give this a watch if you're looking for a simple slasher film, intertwined with a predictable backstory, and a spooky setting. It didn't wow me, but it wasn't the worst I've seen. There's just something about abandoned asylums that gives me the heebie-jeebies. So what did you make of the Dead Pit? Did it make you want to drink away your sorrows? Or leave you screaming in a padded room? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, why not give it a thumbs up, or subscribe if you want to see more reviews like this one. I've been HB, the Horror Bot. Cheers babes.